This is not financial advice. It's not legal advice. For entertainment, educational purposes only. And everything I say is my opinion. Please do not make any financial decision based on anything I say in these videos. That being said, hit the like button, subscribe button, all that YouTube algorithm stuff, so you get the videos as I put them out. See what I'm thinking. See how I'm analyzing the data. There's a lot of people saying that retail should stop buying the counterfeit shares, and I kind of agree with that a little bit, but here's the thing. We know that they have the ability to create infinite counterfeit shares because the SEC refused to do their job, the DTCC refused to do their job, the CFTC refused to do their job. So they kind of could continue making these magical counterfeit shares or infinite counterfeit shares every day with no real consequences. And if you look at it mathematically, they are creating liquidity by selling these shares to retail investors. But that liquidity is temporary. That liquidity is temporary because, first of all, they're not buying the shares. They're not paying for the shares. The market makers are just creating the shares in the computer program and then selling them into the market, and then we're buying them. Well, I believe retailers buying them, this is my opinion. And then after we buy them, then the brokers are shorting these same shares back into the market to be bought again. So they're taking shares and selling them 2, 3, 4, and 5 times, which in itself should be a crime, which in itself, as far as I'm concerned, is a Ponzi scheme. And this is going to be this is the biggest Ponzi scheme in the history of the world. And when it collapses, it's going to make 2008, the .com, the 1929 Great Depression, and even Bernie Madoff, it's going to make them look like petty criminals when this thing implodes on itself. But the temporary liquidity that the hedges are getting, that the market makers are getting by selling these fake counterfeit shares to us, it's only temporary. And let me tell you why. Say they sold 50 million shares at $10. And even though they initially they didn't pay for the shares, they have to buy back every single share that they sold into the market, all the real shares and all the counterfeit shares. So even though if they might temporarily make 500 million off this play, eventually they're gonna have to buy the shares back at whatever the market price is the day they decide to start to cover, the day they decide to close their positions. So if they sold 50 million shares, and I think they sold a lot more counterfeit shares than 50 million, I'm just using this as an example, they might have to buy it back at 20, at 50, at 100, at 1,000. So this temporary liquidity that they're getting is a trap. They are actually trapping themselves off because they've dug the hole so deep, and they can't even get AMC to push below 10 because then their margin requirements change astronomically. And after September 1st, when phase 6 kicks in, then the margin requirements are going to change again and put additional pressure on them. So while they are gaining temporary liquidity by selling the shares that they did not pay for, that they just fabricated in a computer, they are putting themselves in a bear trap. They're putting themselves in a bear trap that's going to tear the whole system down, because if they sold it at 10, they're going to have to buy it back at the market price when they decide to cover, and more than likely it's going to be astronomically more higher than what they actually sold it for in the first place. So when the retail investors keep buying them up, a lot of retail investors, they can only buy a little bit at a time. They can't buy 1,000 shares, 5,000 shares. They can only buy 5 and 10. And they look at it as a long-term investment. They believe, as I believe, that AMC is going to squeeze. And when it squeezes, even if they pay $10 for it, $15 for it, $20 for it, and even though it's a counterfeit share that they purchased, they know, like I know, that no matter how many shares they sell, they have to buy them all back. So even though they're getting a temporary liquidity today, they have dug themselves in the hole and put themselves in a nightmare of their own making. Anyway, hit the like button, the subscribe button. Let me know what you think about them creating the counterfeit shares and creating their own bear trap. They're creating an actual trap that's gonna bring them down. Anyway, have a great day. I appreciate y'all on this journey with me. God bless.